What happens when a billionaire CEO eats alone in his own steakhouse and gets treated like an afterthought? Owen Whitmore sat in his truck outside the 16th location of the steakhouse chain he'd spent 15 years building from nothing. A neon sign buzzed over the roof, flickering against the darkening sky. This was supposed to be one of his top-performing stores. But for the last few months, online reviews had dropped hard. Complaints about rude servers, cold food, and long waits. His district manager, Todd, had brushed it off as just a vocal minority. Owen didn't like relying on second-hand answers. He hadn't personally visited this location since its grand opening 2 years back. He'd never even met the current manager or staff. With 16 restaurants and a tight disguise, a trimmed beard, fake glasses, and a worn flannel shirt, he could easily pass as a traveling customer. That's exactly what he planned to do. He stepped out of the truck and walked in. "Table for one?" the hostess said flatly, glancing at him only once. "Yeah, just me," Owen replied. "No booth. Just a two-top by the kitchen window. That okay?" "Sure," he said, keeping his tone easy. She led him to a small table near the swinging kitchen doors. The place was half full, but the energy fell off. No music. No smiles. A couple at the bar looked frustrated, their menus still closed. Owen sat for 9 minutes before a waiter finally approached. Mid-20s, tall, and distracted. "You ready to order?" the waiter asked, skipping any greeting. "I haven't seen a menu yet." The waiter blinked at him.
"Right. Hantay."
He turned and disappeared. Owen leaned back in the chair. This wasn't just a bad night. This felt like routine. Another 5 minutes passed before the menu landed in front of him with a soft thud. Owen ordered the 12-ounce ribeye, medium rare, with mashed potatoes and sautéed carrots. He watched as the waiter scribbled it down without making eye contact. While he waited, Owen scanned the room. One server hustled with a tray in one hand and a water pitcher in the other, clearly pulling more than her share. A busboy behind her looked defeated, wiping tables with the same rag he used on the floor. No manager in sight. The steak arrived 22 minutes later. It was overcooked. Still, Owen ate a few bites. He wanted to see how the staff handled tables, maybe catch the manager's interaction. But no one checked on him. No one offered a refill. No one asked how the food was. Then, without a word, the same waiter from earlier walked by and snatched his plate while he still had half the steak on it. Owen froze mid-sentence, fork in hand. "Hey," he said. "I wasn't finished." The waiter barely looked back. "You've been sitting there for a while. Figured you were done." Owen stared at the empty space where his plate had been. "You didn't ask." The waiter shrugged, already walking toward the kitchen. That was it. The moment snapped something in Owen. This wasn't just bad service. This was disrespect for the customer and, by extension, everything he built. He stood up and walked out without dessert, without a thank you, without a goodbye. In the truck, he stared at the dashboard for a minute, hands gripping the wheel. He'd had his doubts before. Now he had the truth. Tomorrow he was coming back. Not as a customer. As a trainee. And he was going to see exactly who was sinking his business from the inside. The next morning, Owen parked behind the steakhouse, dressed in a plain black polo, jeans, and an old pair of sneakers. He'd shaved the beard he wore the night before and combed his graying hair flat. A baseball cap pulled low finished the look. His name tag read Mike. He'd arranged everything through corporate HR under a dummy identity, citing a pilot shadowing program for field-level training insight. The manager had been notified 2 days ago. No one knew the man shadowing the front-of-house team today was the owner. When Owen stepped through the back entrance, the smell of sour mop water hit first. The break room was dim, with mismatched chairs and a vending machine humming louder than it should. A girl sat at the table scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up. A soft voice came from the hallway. "You the new guy?" Owen turned. A woman in her late 20s, black apron tied over her waist, stood holding a stack of menus. Her eyes were tired but alert.
Yeah.
Mike. Vanessa, she said, shifting the menus to one arm. I was told I'd be training you. We're short 2 servers today, so you'll mostly just follow me. He nodded. Works for me. They moved into the dining area. Music barely trickled from the ceiling speakers, completely drowned out by the clatter of silverware and the hiss from the kitchen. The morning prep team had already left. Lunch service had started 15 minutes ago, and it already felt behind. Vanessa handed him a stack of clean napkins and silverware. Start rolling. We need at least 20 ready. You ever done this before? Once or twice. She looked at him a second longer than necessary. You're not one of those guys who says that and then fumbles the first wrap, are you? He grinned faintly. Guess we'll find out. She snorted softly and walked away to greet a table. Owen rolled the napkins quickly and cleanly. His hands remembered the mechanics. Years ago, he'd done this exact thing every night before close. A voice barked from the kitchen doorway. Vanessa, table 12 still waiting on drinks. The man who shouted had a clipboard under one arm and a walkie clipped to his belt. He was in his 40s, with slicked back hair and a permanent scowl. Owen recognized him immediately. Marcus, the general manager. Vanessa called back. I just got triple sat. 1 second. Well, move faster, Marcus snapped, not bothering to lower his voice. You're not the only one working here. Owen watched him retreat into the kitchen. No follow-up. No help. Just pressure. Vanessa returned with 3 soft drinks balanced on a tray, sweat already forming at her temples. He always like that? Owen asked under his breath. She gave a tight smile but didn't answer. Over the next hour, Owen followed her through every task, refilling waters, running food, clearing dishes. She never stopped moving. She checked on guests, apologized when their orders took too long, and fixed mistakes the kitchen made, without complaint. Owen noticed she never got a break and never asked for one. At one point, a teenage hostess knew, judging by the way she clutched the seating chart, approached Marcus near the expo window. I think table 6 is upset. They've been waiting for a while. Marcus didn't even turn to look at her. Then go tell them we're busy. You think this place runs on fairy dust? Owen watched the girl shrink back. Her lip trembled, but she nodded and walked off. He turned to Vanessa. That normal? She hesitated. It's better not to make it worse. In the next 30 minutes, Owen saw 2 servers mess up orders, one of them blaming the kitchen outright. No accountability. One server, a guy named Jay, spent most of his shift leaning against the bar, scrolling through his phone. He ignored 3 tables that were clearly trying to flag someone down. Hey, Jay, Vanessa said, passing him with 2 plates. Table 9's waving again. Jay looked up, then back at his screen. They're not mine. They're in your section. He shrugged. Then they can wait. Owen set down the tray he was carrying and walked over. You need a hand? Jay didn't look at him.
Nah.
I'm good. New guy, right? Just stick with Vanessa. She loves playing hero. Owen stared at him. Jay didn't flinch. The table finally got their server Vanessa again. She dropped off their food with a quick apology. She doesn't even get the tips from that table, does she? Owen asked another server in passing. Nope, the girl said. Jay's got seniority. Management doesn't care who picks it up as long as it gets done. He knows it. By the time the lunch rush peaked, the kitchen was in chaos. Orders were delayed. Some came out wrong. Vanessa had to send back a steak well done when it was ordered medium rare. The cook snapped at her, claiming she'd written it wrong. Owen had seen her ticket. It wasn't her mistake. Marcus emerged again, slamming a clipboard on the counter. We're backed up 15 minutes, he barked. I don't want to hear another damn excuse from anybody. If you can't handle this, I'll find someone who can. Owen stepped forward. You might want to check the kitchen line. Looks like they're backed up because they're short one guy. Marcus looked him up and down. Who are you again? Mike. Trainee. Marcus sneered. Well, Mike, let me do my job and you do yours. That means staying out of things you don't understand. Vanessa stepped between them subtly. Let's just get through the rush. Owen backed off.
For now.
During a brief lull, they reset tables. Owen asked quietly, what happens if someone complains about Marcus? Vanessa gave him a look. To who?
Todd?
He's been friends with Marcus for like 10 years. He doesn't listen. Last girl who complained ended up getting her shifts cut until she quit. Owen's jaw tightened. That legal? Nope. But she didn't have the energy to fight it. At 2:30, the crowd thinned. Vanessa finally slumped against the server station, eyes closed. You haven't sat down once, Owen said. She shrugged. If I stop moving, I won't get back up. A delivery guy entered with a crate of soda syrup. Marcus barked at him to drop it in the back, then turned to Vanessa. Clock out and start your side work. Vanessa blinked. I still have 3 tables finishing up. Then you're off the clock while you finish. We're over labor. You can clock back in to clean. Owen couldn't believe what he'd just heard. You're making her work unpaid? Marcus turned sharply. You got something to say, trainee? Yeah, Owen said evenly. That's wage theft. Marcus walked over slowly. You think you know how this place works after one shift? I know the law. Marcus scoffed. You don't know a damn thing. You're just another mouth. Owen locked eyes with him.
No.
I'm the owner. The room froze. Vanessa's eyes widened. Jay looked up from his phone for the first time in an hour. Marcus blinked. What? Owen pulled a cap from his head and set it on the counter. Name's Owen Whitmore. I built this company. And I just watched you violate labor law in front of half your staff. You're not serious, Marcus said, voice shaking slightly. Owen stepped forward. You've been intimidating employees, silencing complaints, and allowing blatant negligence from your team. I've seen enough. Marcus glanced around, suddenly aware of how many eyes were on him. Wait, let's talk in the office. No, Owen said. You're done. Clean out your things. You're terminated effective immediately. Jay tried to slip away toward the kitchen. Owen called after him. Jay. The server stopped. You've ignored customers, dumped your work on others, and disrespected the staff who covered for you. Turn in your apron. Jay opened his mouth but thought better of it. He dropped the apron on the counter and walked out without a word. Owen turned to the rest of the room. Everyone else? You've got nothing to worry about. Especially those of you doing the work of 3 people. He looked at Vanessa. You're not going to clock out while you're still working. From now on, you get paid for every minute you're here. And you're getting a raise. Starting today. She swallowed hard. I thank you. Owen nodded. Tomorrow's going to look different. I promise. Owen arrived at the restaurant just before opening the next morning, this time in his usual attire, tailored slacks, pressed shirt, and a charcoal jacket. He hadn't worn the full CEO uniform in years, but today called for clarity. No more disguises. No more watching from the sidelines. The staff deserved better, and he needed them to know change wasn't coming it had started. Inside, the dining room was quiet, chairs still stacked on tables. A few employees milled around, unsure whether to prep or wait for instruction. Vanessa stood by the server station, tying her apron with practiced hands. Her eyes met his briefly, unsure whether to say anything. He approached her directly. You're off service today, he said. She paused, one hand still at her waist.
I'm sorry.
You're not working tables. I want you with me in the office. You've got insight I need. I never, she started, then stopped herself. Okay. Do I clock in? Of course, he said. And you'll be paid your average tip rate on top of hourly while you're off the floor. She nodded once, still processing. By the time the rest of the morning crew trickled in, Owen had pulled the entire team to the back room. No clipboards.
No lecturas.
Just the staff and him, standing under the flickering fluorescent lights. He waited until the room settled. Most of you met me as Mike. That was intentional, he said. I needed to see how things really were here. Not filtered through managers. Not polished for a walkthrough. No one said a word. Several avoided his gaze altogether. I saw things I didn't expect, he continued. And I saw things I won't tolerate. There won't be any vague memos or slow rollouts. We start fixing things today. A dishwasher leaned against the wall near the back, arms crossed tightly. So, what does that mean for us? It means you'll be treated like professionals, Owen said, and held to that standard. No more unpaid time. No more being ignored when you speak up. But also no more hiding behind chaos. I expect accountability. Someone mumbled. You really fired Marcus? Yes, Owen said.
And Jay.
And if anyone else has been covering for their behavior, intimidating coworkers, ignoring customers, abusing authority, they'll be next. There was no applause. Just a long silence that felt heavier than any speech. Now, he said, I'll be spending the next week here. Every day. Not as an owner in the office, but on the floor. I'll be rotating through prep, kitchen, and service. If something's broken, I want to see why. He turned to Vanessa. She'll be acting as my liaison. If you've got suggestions or issues, bring them to her. If you're uncomfortable doing that, come to me directly. As the staff dispersed, a prep cook in his late 30s approached. He wore a faded apron, and his forearms were marked by years of kitchen labor. I'm Jorge, he said. Been here since the place opened. I've tried raising concerns before. No one listened. Owen met his eyes. Tell me now. Jorge glanced toward the kitchen door. We've been out of 3 core ingredients for a week. The orders keep getting cut down to save costs. Some of the cooks are swapping in whatever they can find. That explained the garlic mashed potatoes tasting like Instamix, Owen said. Jorge gave a dry nod. We're also down a line cook. Todd said we can't hire until corporate clears it. Owen didn't hesitate. We're hiring. Today. You know anyone looking? My cousin's got experience. Can start tomorrow. Have him come in. Full interview. Fair wage. Jorge's shoulders eased slightly. Appreciate it. As the day moved forward, Owen shadowed the kitchen team. The deeper he went, the more he saw how Marcus's neglect had stretched beyond the dining room. There was no proper labeling system for prep items. Expiration dates were ignored. The fryer oil hadn't been changed in 5 days. Jorge and one other cook had been quietly covering for it all, patching holes without recognition. At noon, a new hostess, Brielle, arrived for her shift. She looked hesitant, barely 19, clutching a small notebook. Owen watched as she hovered near the front, uncertain whether to seat a waiting couple. Vanessa stepped in quickly. 2 for lunch? She asked, then turned to Brielle. Come with me. As they walked the guests to their table, Vanessa coached her in a low voice, showing her where to place menus and how to time the greeting. Owen followed quietly, watching how she adjusted to mentoring without condescension, firm but kind. After the table was seated, he pulled Vanessa aside near the bar. You've done this before, he said. I trained new hosts at my last restaurant, she said. Before I moved states. You've got leadership instincts. She tilted her head. You planning on making me a manager? Not yet, Owen said. I need to rebuild the foundation first. But when we do, it'll be earned, not handed. She gave a small nod, eyes steady. Mid-afternoon, a man in a blazer arrived, clipboard in hand.
Todd.
Got your message, he said, eyes flicking around the restaurant. Didn't expect to find you here this early. I needed to see it for myself, Owen said. Todd looked uncomfortable. I've been managing 8 locations. I can't be in all places at once. You don't need to be everywhere, Owen said. You just need to be honest about the places you are. You told me complaints here were exaggerated. I reviewed the metrics. You ignored the red flags. You protected a manager who was failing his team. He created a culture of silence and burnout. People were afraid to speak up because they thought it wouldn't matter. Todd shifted his weight. What are you saying? I'm saying your role is under review. I'm bringing in someone from HR to conduct exit interviews and staff surveys across your district. I'll be personally reviewing them. Todd's face tensed. You're going to undermine everything I've built? Owen leveled his gaze. What you built is irrelevant if it's built on denial. Todd left without another word. By evening, the restaurant felt different. Still understaffed. Still stretched thin. But the tension had shifted. Staff made eye contact. Guests were greeted promptly. Food ran late once or twice, but apologies were sincere, and no one was left waiting in silence. As the last diners filtered out, Owen sat with Vanessa and Jorge at a corner table. We're not fixed, he said. But we've started. Vanessa leaned back in her chair. People are watching. They're waiting to see if it sticks. It will, Owen said, because I'm not leaving until it does. Jorge folded his arms. You sticking around long term? Owen nodded. Every week I'm not on the road. I'll be working a shift somewhere. No warning.
No titles.
Just me and the work. Vanessa looked at him. Why now? He paused, then answered plainly. Because I forgot what it feels like to be on the floor. And I won't forget again. By the end of the second week, Owen knew every corner of the restaurant. He had cooked on the line during a slammed Friday night, restocked dry goods at close, and bussed tables during a Saturday lunch rush when a server called out. Nothing had come easy, but that was the point. The staff had begun to adapt not to a new boss, but to a new standard. Vanessa had stepped into a more visible role, helping onboard 2 new hires while continuing to run her section. Jorge's cousin Luis had joined as a line cook and was already pulling weight like he'd been there a year. But the cracks hadn't sealed yet. There were still shortages, still turnover, still moments when the old atmosphere tried to creep back in. Monday morning, Owen walked into the office with a stack of printed applications in one hand and a black coffee in the other. The door was already open. Vanessa was inside, reviewing schedules. You're early, Owen said, setting the papers on the desk. I was on hold with payroll. There's a gap in Brielle's last check. She got shorted by 2 hours. Owen pulled out his phone. Give me the exact date and timestamp. I'll have it adjusted before lunch. She's afraid to say anything herself. Thinks it'll make her look ungrateful. Then we show her it won't. Vanessa leaned back, arms crossed. You think that fear ever really goes away? No, Owen said. But people stop freezing when they realize someone will actually listen. Vanessa tapped a pen against the desk. You still want me reviewing the server training binder?
Yeah.
And once it's finished, I want you running the next orientation session. She raised an eyebrow. You sure people won't talk? About favoritism. They'll talk if we keep doing things the same way. I'm more concerned about whether they respect the person leading. And right now, you've earned that. Just before the lunch shift began, Brielle approached. Her voice was quiet, but her steps were more confident than the week before. Vanessa said you might already know, but I think I missed some hours on my last check. You did, Owen said. It's fixed. You'll get the makeup pay, with a bonus 10% for the trouble. Her eyes widened slightly. I didn't expect. You shouldn't have to expect anything. You should just get paid for what you worked. She nodded quickly and returned to the host stand. By 1 o'clock, the dining room was humming. Not perfect, never perfect, but functional, steady. Luis moved through the kitchen with precision. Jorge had reorganized the walk-in, and the kitchen was finally tracking inventory cleanly. Orders were coming out faster. Fewer mistakes. Guests stayed longer. Some even asked to speak to the manager with compliments. Owen sat at the corner table with a notepad, jotting down observations when Todd walked in, stiff and visibly uncomfortable. A woman followed behind him, mid-30s, dark blazer, tablet in hand. Her badge identified her as Caroline Haskins, Regional HR. Owen stood. "Let's talk in the office." Inside, Caroline placed her tablet on the desk and took a breath. "I've completed 12 interviews across this location and 3 others in Todd's district. I've reviewed scheduling records, tip reports, and employee turnover over the last 6 months." Todd sat down, arms crossed tightly. Caroline continued. "There's a pattern of labor violations. Unpaid side work. Shifts shortened on paper, but not in reality. Retaliation against staff who raise concerns." Todd shook his head. "This is all being blown out of proportion. Every restaurant has turnover. Every manager makes judgment calls." Owen didn't sit. "You retaliated against a server who reported harassment at another location. You cut her hours until she quit." "That was a misunderstanding," Todd said. "She wasn't a strong performer." "Stop," Owen said. "It's over." Caroline glanced at him. "You want me to proceed with formal termination?"
Yes.
"Effective immediately. I'll have legal draw up the severance agreement. He's to have no further contact with any staff at any location." Todd stood abruptly. "You think this place runs itself? You're going to tank your own numbers trying to play savior." Owen didn't flinch. "If the numbers depend on silence, then they deserve to tank." Todd left without another word. Caroline gathered her tablet. "I'll stay on site the rest of the week. Start rebuilding the district team. We'll begin exit interviews at the other locations tomorrow. I want Vanessa looped in on all training system updates." Caroline nodded. "Understood." By the end of the day, word had spread. No one cheered. No one whispered. But something shifted again deeper. Not relief. Not celebration. Just the first sense that maybe things wouldn't snap back to how they were. That night, Owen stayed after close, helping Jorge and Luis scrub the flat-top grill. Vanessa finished the tip calculations in the office and joined them after. "We're still short a bartender," she said, drying her hands on a rag. "I know," Owen said. "I've got a lead. Former employee from Location 5. Left when Marcus transferred in. She's open to coming back." Jorge turned off the fan hood. "You plan to keep working shifts? Even after this place levels out?" "I do," Owen said. "Not every day, but regularly. I'll rotate through the other stores too." Luis looked up. "Why?" Owen leaned against the counter. "Because for a while, I let someone else define what this company felt like. From now on, I need to feel it myself. Every time." Vanessa tossed the rag into the laundry bin. "You can't be everywhere."
No, he said.
"But I can be present where it matters. And I can make sure whoever represents me knows the difference between leading and controlling." Outside, the parking lot was quiet. The neon sign buzzed steadily, no longer flickering. The lights inside were off, but the glow from the kitchen still pooled onto the tile. It was late. Everyone was tired, but no one looked worn down. As they locked up, Vanessa turned to Owen. "You're rebuilding the place from the inside." He nodded. "That's the only way it'll last." Jorge pulled his keys from his pocket. "You know, first time I met you, I thought you were just another exec pretending to care." "I was," Owen said, "until I stopped pretending." They stood there for a moment, no rush to leave. Eventually, Owen headed to his truck. He didn't need to check the reviews. He didn't need to ask for status reports. He'd seen the change.
Felt it.
And he knew the kind of company he was running now. One that knew the value of every plate, every shift, every person. And he wouldn't let anyone forget it again.